Floyd Dent is a victim of police brutality in Inkster, Detroit. Now, back in January, he was pulled over for a traffic violation, and it escalated quickly with multiple police officers hurting him pretty badly. In fact, we have footage of this, which he presented in court, and he actually won a settlement as a result of that. Let's take a look at the video. So there you see him. He's pulled out of the car. At first, there are two police officers. There's one of them just right on top of him. That's the person who hurt him the most and who, there you go, punching him in the head. The guy has already surrendered. Like, let it go.
It's clear he doesn't have a weapon. He's saying, "I can't breathe." And later in this story, we found out a couple of days later that that officer seemed to plant drugs in the car as well.
Yes.
You see him in video taking out the drugs from his pocket. And all other cops are standing around. They see him do it. They don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So this is an outrage on a couple of different fronts.
Absolutely. So as you watch the video unfold, more and more police officers get involved. They're all on top of him. And so his case actually won. He did win a settlement in court. And so you would assume that the $1.38 million settlement that he won would be paid for by the police department or by the city, which, by the way, even though the city has a number of people with low income living there, it actually has a surplus. So the city's not doing bad financially speaking. However, there's apparently a policy in the city indicating when such settlements happen, the money doesn't come out of the general fund. The money comes from the taxpayers themselves in the form of a tax, okay? So, according to reports, because of this $1.38 million settlement, property owners will shell out about $178.67 on a home with a market value of $55,400, which, of course, the amount that you pay is tied to the value of your home. And that's the median value of a home in Inkster, according to the U.S. Census Bureau estimates. So if you own a $55,000 home in Inkster and you had nothing to do with this situation at all, you have to pay nearly $200 because of this police officer's brutality. Not only have you paid for the salary of this cop, you now have to pay for his punishment.
I actually think that that's not as bad an idea as you might think it is. It is in this case, okay? And I'll tell you why. It will be forced on the residents in a city where 38% of its residents live below the poverty level, and the median household income is stunningly low. $26,512, the Census Bureau estimates. So I'm with you, Anna, that in this case, they're taking it out on the citizens. The citizens didn't beat the cop, etc., and especially in a situation where it appears they're going to have real trouble affording it. And I get the outrage because what it does is it turns the citizens, I was going to say unwittingly, but perhaps wittingly, against the victim. Like, oh, I'm going to have to pay this guy, right? And maybe they get angry at him. But the reason why I don't mind it as a general policy, and perhaps this should be explored in other areas, is because, well, then you realize, wait a minute, these are the cops I'm paying, and I am responsible for them. They're government workers. They work for me, the taxpayer, right? So if they do something wrong, it's not going to be just something I could dismiss. It's going to affect me. So I better be real careful about what the cops do. So especially if you don't live in a well-to-do neighborhood, right? And you got the cops saying, hey, you coming from the city, which also happens around Detroit, it's going to have consequences. But if they go too far and then all of a sudden the property owners there are paying extra taxes, then they might go, well, wait, I'm not sure we should beat down everybody that comes into town, right? So that's an interesting, and if you're a property owner, again, this is an exception because this city is so poor, right? But generally, you're a little bit wealthier than the average taxpayer. Right? So it actually puts the burden on people who could afford it more. This is an ironic exception to the rule in this case, right? And so when you do that, then perhaps who drives any real change in this country, unfortunately? The rich.
I know,
right?
But the rich are also the same people that would turn around and look at a case like this and not believe that this man was brutalized. They're the same people who have drank that whole stereotypical Kool-Aid indicating that all black people are thugs. We've seen it time and time again. So are those the people who are going to care enough to change how the system works? I think a lot of them would look at a case like this and say, the cop's just doing his job. I mean, who knows what kind of, activity this black guy was up to?
Okay, now, I think a lot might say that. By the way, of course, some wouldn't. Some of the richest people in the country are super liberals, right? So that's also true.
In LA.
Too. Right.
In New York.
Yeah, well, but those are some of the richest places, and San Francisco too.
Yeah.
So, but even for the people who have the wrong intent, a guy, he probably deserved and stuff. But when they pay that tax bill, which is the thing they hate most of all, and in that case, conservative or liberal, okay, then they go, oh, God damn it, even though I think it was, probably the guy had it coming or whatever it might be, let's make sure that doesn't happen again. What I want is the powerful people in that town saying, let's make sure that doesn't happen
No,
again.
here's what I want, okay? I want the local police departments, with all the money that they make from civil forfeitures, to pay for their own fucking settlements. That's
that's a fair
what I
point.
would like, okay? So the same citizens that are being brutalized by the cops now have to pay the settlements for the cops. The same citizens that pay their salaries now have to pay for the settlements of the cops. Like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't think look, here's the thing. You know what would change a police chief's way of training and treating police officials? Knowing that he's going to have to take money out of the police department to pay for these settlements. Maybe the hiring practices would be a little different. So I feel like going to the root of the problem is more effective than putting this burden on citizens of the community.
So, look, if you make an argument that all actions against lawsuits against the police are going to come out of the civil forfeiture thing, well, that's going to have two consequences. One, I like that idea because, hey, that's your little, you get to just steal people's property and go civil forfeiture, right? And we've talked about that in the past. On the other hand, it'll probably drive them to do more civil forfeitures.
Yes, okay, but I'm saying, just understand, I'm 100% against civil forfeiture unless there is actual evidence that you're collecting in the form of money or property that's going to help with a real investigation. In many of these cases, they just take stuff away from people with no probable cause or anything like that. But these police departments have money. They have enough money to buy tanks from the military. They're fine, okay? They can pay for their settlements.